Okay, when you open up the main My Program, this is going to be the key window that you see. All right. Some of you might have some differences or changes here, and I'm going to walk you through the menu bar and some of the other options and how you can change that. Okay. First thing that you're going to have up here on the very top is you're going to have the key menu bar. Okay. That's going to have the file options, edit, modify, window, asset, select. So if you touch on one of these, for every distinct category, it's going to have something that applies to one particular area of interest or study that you're doing. So file will always have some of the basic ones. Okay. If we come down here, down below, okay, you're going to have, I even forget what they call this offhand, but it'll come back up to me in a second because I'm going to close it. It's the, they're calling this the main menu bar, but I like to refer to this as sort of the main, you can call that the menu options, I guess, if you like. Okay. When you come down here, one of the neat things you'll notice is that when you hold the cursor over an object and you let it sit, Maya usually tells you what it is. Okay, so if I bring the cursor and hang it over anything, let it sit, it'll bring up a little highlighted box, and it tells me what that object is. Okay, if I come down here, okay, to me this particular area right here. They call this the shelf tab. Okay, it's displayed here, and so your shelf tab has a series of tabs that are above it. If you click on one of those tabs, one is general, one is curves, surfaces, polygons, subdivisions, deformation, animation, dynamics. This is how extensive the program is. Okay, we're going to be working and starting primarily only in basic polygons. Okay, so some of you, does everyone have this option right here of general, curves, surfaces? Great. Okay. If you accidentally touch this little, okay, let me see if I can close this right here. You used to be able to move it. Yeah, so you could bring it. Sometimes students accidentally click something, they bring it, and they close it. Let me see if I can remember the close option here. But it'll disappear. If it happens to disappear, there's a way to get it back, and I'll show you that in a couple of minutes, okay? So with that being said, we know where our file, our save options are, okay? Also up here, you're going to notice this menu option up here, okay? And if you click on it, it'll open up and it'll give you subcategories for other menu options. So some of you, if you opened up, you might have the rendering subset menu up here, which changes the way some of the options look. If I click over here, I want to make sure I'm in animation, right? It changed a lot of these instant hotkey buttons up here for me. So I want to make sure that I'm selected in polygons. Does everyone follow that? That's what you guys are going to be using is your polygon selection. Okay? All right. Now, go ahead and touch the circle, the sphere right here, and watch what happens. If I touch this, it's going to throw one in the middle of my grid. If it doesn't throw one in the middle of your grid, it's going to ask you to come over and drag and create it. Did it ask you to do that? Okay. So what I'm going to do, give me a break. That's called interactive creation, which means it allows you to create it where you want on the grid. Mine isn't set on that real quick. So let me go in, let me modify mine. Okay, it's under create. Okay. So how would I find that if I wanted to change that? If I want to hit one of those base primitives and create it, okay, it's going to be listed under, what am I doing? I'm creating a primitive, right? I'm creating a polygon primitive. That's what we're going to be learning, is polygonal modeling, polygon. So if I go under create, go to polygon primitives and come down here. Oops. There is a interactive creation. Do you see that? If I click that on now, and if I click that sphere, it asks me drag on the grid. So now if I drag, it creates the size of my sphere. Okay? Now, watch what happens when I create a cylinder. It says drag the base on the grid. If I drag the base on the grid, then it says drag height up. So I have to create the other part of the cylinder. Okay? If you do not like that, and you are old school, or you prefer, you'd go under create, you drop down under, polygon primitives, scroll over and turn off interactive creation. Then if I create the cylinder, it puts it right in the middle of my screen. Okay? All right. Now, I still need to show you a bunch of other tools. I need to show you the selection options. You need to be able to touch. So what you can do now is you could create a sphere or polygon primitive, and you could do this. You could middle mouse button, left mouse button, and you could zoom around it right now. That's as far as you guys have pretty much been instructed upon. Okay. So you have on your keyboard a set of keys called QWERTY. Some of you know that from your cell phones, called a QWERTY keyboard, right? This is where it comes from, QWER. Okay? If I come over and touch that object with my cursor, and if I hit Q, that's the selection mode. If I hit W, that puts arrows in it. If I hit E, that puts a rotation option. If I put R, that puts a scaling option. Okay? So watch me do that again. Okay? Real quick, bear with me for a second. I want to explain why we have selection modes. Why do we have Q? We have Q, so if we have to touch with our mouse by clicking the left-hand button, either one of our objects that we want to move, rotate, modify, manipulate, we have to go in there and we have to do that by clicking Q or W. The thing, if I click W, then whenever I touch something, it has the arrows on it. If the arrows get in the way, that's why I have the option of Q. Okay, so Q, W, E, R. So now I'm going to press W. Okay, you'll notice when I press W, look at what happens over here on the left-hand side of the Maya frame, the toolbox. Watch what happens when I hit Q. See what it did? When I hit Q, it jumped up to this box right here. This is the toolbox. A lot of you have used Photoshop. You're familiar with a toolbox. A lot of basic applications have a toolbox, right? So if I hit Q, I get that. Watch what happens when I hit W. It jumped down here now, and it's a cone with a move symbol. See that? If I hit E, it jumps down to the one below it, which is a sphere with a rotate. So if you don't want to touch QWER, you can manually go over and you can touch it on the toolbox. I love QWER, but when I first started learning the basics of Maya, I was coming over here, touching on the side. Okay? All right. QWER allows me to get in to any basic option. Now, look up at my screen. If I hit QWER, it's changing, but nothing's happening in the middle of my screen. Why? Nothing's selected right now. Okay. So, now you've learned QWER. Now, go up on your keyboard and press 4, then press 5. 5 is the shaded mode. 4 gives you wireframe mode. Okay? So, the importance of this is that I can touch an object. I can be looking through multiple objects in wireframe mode, especially when you're working on something complicated, use wireframe. But then you want to see what the polygonal mesh is looking like, you need to press 5. And 5 gives you a shaded view of that mesh. Okay? But you'll notice if you go on to 5, you can't see through it. Okay? A little bit later on, I'll show you some other commands that you can use to get into that. So let me back up a little bit. I'm going to digress from the controls. Okay? And I want to show you some of the other basics. We talked about the menu bar. We talked about up here the options to go into different aspects of the program. Okay, we can go into the animation subset. We can go into dynamics. We want to be in polygons, right? Okay, right up here we talked about the different tab options that we have. We want to be in polygons as well. Okay, and then we talked about the left-hand side here, which was the toolbox. Okay, all right. Now I want to explain a little bit about the rest of the program, right? Let's look at this view right here. This open window, excuse me, I can't talk today, guys. I will refer to this window as your OpenGL view, okay? It is the open perspective view, okay? So this is important because this is our key window that we look through. There are times if you, hold your cursor over your OpenGL view and hit the space bar. Aha! 4 other views pop up. A front, a side, a top, and the OpenGL. The OpenGL view is also your perspective view that allows you to rotate, right? So I just hit my space bar, went to the 4 views. watch, I'm going to drag my cursor, just by moving my mouse, over the top view. How do I know it says top? In little green type right here. You see right here on the screen? It says top right there. I'm going to hold my cursor over the top view, hit spacebar again. Boom. Now I'm in top view. This is a great asset to me. Allows me to move things around from different views. Okay? Watch. I want to get back to perspective. What do? Spacebar. Move the cursor over perspective. Boom, I'm back. Okay? All right, so that's a nice little fast set. Now I'm in the front view. Come back, go to this view, back again. Okay? So this is really important. This allows us to work in multiple views. So check this out. If I'm in this view right here, look at what happens when I grab one of these arrows and I move my object. I can see it moving in the other views. That's excellent. Okay? That way, if I'm making a room, I can see how I'm moving things out from the top view. Okay? This is a huge benefit to me. All right? So, this is my core view. You'll also notice now I hate to get into this, but inside this open window, I have some other options of view, shading, lighting, render, panels, and so on. I'll get to that a little bit later. But just like any other software program, like using Microsoft Word or anything else, I'm going to have little options in there. I also have some other really cool little options that are in here too. Okay, like if I hold my cursor over some of these little symbols right here, it'll tell me what they are. I have a smooth shade version, right? I can click that instead of hitting 4 or 5. This is a real cool one here. I have the wireframe that takes me back and forth. And then right here, wait a minute, I'm trying to find it. Where's my X-ray mode? Well, there it is. I click that guy right there. I'm in 5, and then I click this guy. Look at that. It's in part shaded, but it's also in wireframe and X-ray. So if I want to take off the wireframe, I could hold my cursor over, find the wireframe mode, take it off. 5, take this off. I have different modes I can use. Okay, I prefer working like this, where I can see what I'm looking at. Okay, like this. I prefer working in shaded mode or just hitting 4 and seeing the wireframe mode. That's when you get to a more advanced level, you can find your own specifics on what you like. Okay, so let's stop for a minute. Let's review what we've talked about. We open up the program, the whole thing opens. What we want to be working with is the polygonal options. Inside the polygonal options, we're going to have all these basic, we call these primitives. Primitive shapes that we can create, that we can start working from and modifying. Okay? We work from these primitives to create other new shapes. Right now, every one of my newbies in here, okay, that's what I'm going to refer to you guys as, you know 6 core primitives. You can make 6 shapes right now. Okay? You can make a sphere, cube, cylinder, this odd-looking pointy-nose cone, a piece of paper, a torus. Okay? I'm going to, in a couple minutes, I'm going to show you how you can modify any one of those shapes, and then you'll be able to take those 6, 7 shapes and make another 7 more quickly, and then you'll be able to make 14 shapes. By the end of today's class, you'll be able to make 40 shapes, 50 shapes. Okay? And that's the process of Maya. Is that what you're really doing is that you're looking at something you want to make, like a chair, and then you're thinking in your mind, what are the shapes I need to make those chairs? Okay, so if I were to look at a chair, I'm going to draw this up on the board here real quick. Okay, you know what, I'll just continue working. Actually, I'll talk about it in here, right? A chair is going to have a base to it, right? So I create a cylinder here. So what I can do now is I can modify the cylinder and squash it. So before I start squashing it, let me remind you of the options again. W-E-R. W is move. So watch, I'm going to grab this by the arrow, move it in the direction that I want. Watch what happens when I go to E. E brings up rotate. So if I come over and I grab one of these red circular indications here, or if it's green or blue, it'll rotate my object in that particular direction. Now, be careful. You'll notice the blue outline here. If you grab one of the blue ones, it moves it in whatever particular position it's in, but it's not going to be on what I call the X and the Y axes. Okay? This isn't really important to me as I move forward in Maya. Okay? You'll notice you have a grid that's here. There is a dedicated, this is all mathematic geometry here. there's an X and a Y axis that's represented here. Okay, that's really important because if I just come up here and if I wanted to turn this for some reason and have it at a 90-degree angle, and if I grab it looking at it at a 3/4 view like this and turn it, it's not, see now, it's crooked. It's not at a 90. So I have this option. Oh, let me show you this too. Let me hit scale. Look what happens when I hit scale. Okay. I can also scale it this way. See that? Now you just doubled your shapes because now you can scale shapes and turn them into other shapes, right? So check this out. I'm going to hit a sphere. I bring a sphere over. I drag it this way. Come over here. I hit E. I'm sorry, I meant R. I scale it down. I've now made a pancake shape. Okay? All right? I don't like my pancake shape. Let's say I want to do scale it this way and then scale it out that way. I made surfboard shape. Okay? I hit Control Z. I go back and undo. Okay? All right. Now, this is the part where I tend to lose some students sometimes. I will back up on this really quickly. I am in the key object mode right now. I have 3 modes to my object. Okay? If you look up here, okay, in the very top here under the main menu bar, you'll see these 3 dots, the blue dot, and then the square, which is the vertices selection. Okay? This first selection here of 3 stands for hierarchy, meaning if I have numerous objects grouped together, it'll look at the group and resemble the group. So let me real quick give you a demonstration of this. I know you don't know this yet. Okay? So here I have 3 objects. Let's say I decided to group all these together. Okay? In order to move that whole group as one group, okay, I would have to touch that hierarchy. If I want to move one of those objects separate in the hierarchy, I have to click the independent selection, which is the middle one. And now it allows me to touch and select the object separately. Okay? Now, okay, so if I'm working over here on just a single object, either one would work because there's no group here, right? However, though, look at what happens when I click the vertices. The object turns blue. And it now allows me access to touch and select a vertice and move it or manipulate it, which changes the look of the object. I can even take my left mouse button and drag a box over all the vertices. Go to scale, scale it down and change it. Okay? I could get creative and I could select, I can select, I'm doing this by holding, and I apologize, I'm going a little fast, by holding shift. So I select one, then I hold shift, and then I touch another, press shift again, touch another, shift again, touch another. I gotta be careful when I drag left mouse button, because if I drag like this, it just selected vertices down below on the bottom of the object, right? Okay, so I Control Z back. So watch what I'm going to do really quick. I'm selecting vertices. Okay. There. Now I have these vertices selected. Now watch what happens when I do scale. Ah, cool. Since I selected every other one, it's going to modify the shape differently. Watch what happens when I raise that. Jagged teeth. See that? It changes the shape. Okay, so now you guys had 6 shapes. You created those 6 shapes. You were able to go in. You were able then to modify those shapes by scaling, rotating, right? And now if you hit the hierarchy selection up there on the top, you can go to vertice mode, and now you can touch the vertices and you can modify all the vertices in there the same way. You can move, rotate vertices in the same manner. Okay? All right. So let's take a break there real quick. You guys look back up here. I know you want to go in and start modifying vertices real quick, but I need to show you a couple things. All right. So yeah, you can do all kinds of things. So if I have this as in key mode, common question from students, I can't get the vertices because it's in key selection mode. You need to come over and you need to click it. A little hotkey that Maya has installed for you is the button F8. Watch what happens when I press F8. It rotates me from vertice to independent mode very quickly. Pretty cool. So now I can come in here. Watch this. I can select a whole bunch of vertices. Now let's say I was trying to select all the top ones there. I can't see the other side. This is where you'd want to press 4. So you can go to see-through mode, select the upper column of vertices right there. See that? Then go back, press 5, and come back to your shaded mode. 4 and 5 are shaded mode. F8 toggles you back and forth between key mode and between vertice mode. So now that I have these vertices, check this out. I can go to move, and I can do this. Okay, I could go to scale and do this. Flatten them. I could keep scaling them, and I can turn them into a convex. Like that, see that? I could even then move them back in. See, now I've modified and hit F8. Now I've modified my shape again. I have a different shape. Okay? All right, real quick, I want to show you guys one more thing, and then I'll let you play around. I'll pause this little lecture, and we'll come back to it after the break. Okay? Whenever you create a shape, you have a series of options for that shape. Okay? Those options are going to be found over. Okay, I'm going to pretend right now you can't see it. I'm going to close it, right? That's just my whole view right now. If you come over to the upper right-hand corner of your screen and you hold the mouse, the cursor button, over the far little icon there, that is the channel box layer editor. Okay, if I press on that, a lot of you already have it up, but I'm showing you how to get it back up in case you don't have it. If I tab that right now, it brings up the channel box. This is really important to me. Whenever I have an object created, I have a series of controls to move and modify that object. So see my object selected right now? This is called cylinder 2. It's listed right there, cylinder 2. If I come over and hit E, the rotate button, and then I start to rotate it in one direction, look at what it's doing to the numbers. It's telling me the mathematical rotation that's happening right now. See that? That's really important because if I want to rotate a shape and get it on a 90-degree angle, I need to go over there and be able to look at that rotation that's taking place. So let me show you. If I want to rotate this right on a 90, I need to press shift, if you remember that. It'll keep it on a 90. First of all, I'm sorry, let me back up there. I press E, which is the rotate option, right? Or I come over and select this icon right here. Then I come over, I press shift on my keyboard. Then I take my cursor and I touch the arrow. Oops, let me turn here. I touch the direction of the arrow of the circular line that I want to rotate it in while holding shift. And now look at what happens. It's rotating it, and now it's keeping it from rotating in the other directions because I'm holding shift. I get this as close as I can to 90. I come over here, I touch it, and then I hit delete and type in -90. Boom. And now it's rotated 90 degrees exactly. This is extremely important. As you start making your chairs and modeling, if you start having stuff off kilt and not on the core angles, you will get slop. I had a student once that called it custom. It's a custom pile of dung. Okay? You want things to be at 90s. There are times when you will rotate things off angle to add character or to make it look different. When you're modeling chairs, modeling for the majority, everything we're going to be modeling in this beginning class, you want things to be on key angles. 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. That was going up by, because we all know what a 360 is. Okay? 360 degree radius, right? So therefore, increments of 90. 90 degree angle, then 90 plus another 90, 180, 180 plus 90, 270, 360. That way I can come up here and be like, oh, I wanted to turn it the other way. I can come in here and now type in 270. Well, it just flips it. I can't really see it. Okay, but let's say I want to go back here and go back to 90 degrees. Oh, 90 is the same, so I meant to say 0 there. Okay, so that's really important for me because it allows me to turn and modify it. Also, something else I need to show you. When you create a key shape, let me delete these and go back to key shapes. Okay, like my sphere in the middle there. Do you see it? Okay. When my shape is created, I have a series of inputs underneath that shape. When I come back to that channel box under the option to move it, down below you'll see inputs. You'll see that shape. It's called polysphere. I'm going to touch that listing right there. Look at what it brings up. Radius, subdivision of axes, subdivision of height. If I touch this, I can come over here and type in 10 and look at what happens. I now put 10 sides onto that. Okay. Another faster way is if I touch the description, bring my cursor over, middle mouse button drag. See that? And then it allows me to put my shapes in and modify the shapes instantaneously. Okay? So again, I could type in the number, or I can touch the description, bring my cursor over the window in the OpenGL view, middle mouse button, drag left or right. Okay? Now, I can do that on any shape that's created. Okay? If I create a cube, and I come in here, okay, go to Inputs in the channel box, touch Polycube, I have subdivisions of height, width. If I select subdivisions and width, middle mouse drag, see what it did? It just put a series of width options in there. I come over here, subdivisions height, it adds in height options. Why? This allows me to modify the vertices more. So watch what happens on a cube that I have here created. I hit F8, I go back to vertices selection. I come over here and I can touch core vertices that I want to modify. Say I want those. And now I can come over and I can grab and drag those and modify them. Create a different shape. Okay? That's why the input selection is really, really important. Okay? Now, some of you are going to create a shape like this, and you will learn the duplication option, which is great. When you have a shape selected, if you hit Control D, it duplicates that object. Okay? However, you will notice that the key object that was first created has the input selection. The duplicated object does not have an input selection. Okay? So if you want to modify or add other vertices, you have to do it on a key created shape. Once you duplicate that shape, it's still a valid shape and you could use it and modify it. You could no longer, however, go in there and adjust anything. So if I come over here, there's no adjustments. I come to the key shape, I can come back here, I can adjust its height, I can adjust subdivision of axes, I can make it a triangle, I can make it really smooth. Okay? What you guys don't want is this. Ready? If I come over here to subdivision of axes and type in 200, this is what I call going green. Mr. Aaron has broken the record for going green on his first assignment. Okay? If we go extensively green, I have raised the number of vertices in my object, making it extremely heavy, making my set more likely to crash the Maya application. Okay? All right? There are limitations. Now look, that looks pretty smooth like that. That object right now, you don't have this counter up here. I can show you how to get this counter, but we'll talk about that later. Okay? I just want to point this out to you. This object still holds its shape, looks like a cylinder. This one's only 42 vertices right here. If I touch this object, it's 1,400 vertices. Huge difference, right? So you were to take 42 and divide that into 1,400, you're talking about being able to use that shape numerous times. So you want to avoid getting heavy. Don't go green. Okay, watch what happens when I create a sphere. I can create a sphere. I can bring it over here. I can enlarge it. I can come over, touch its input selection. I can go to subdivisions and raise this to 500. Solid green. Look at what it does to the graphics card. Incredibly green. If I were to take this now, start duplicating it, shifty, 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 my set just quadrupled in size. And there's even the possibility, as Mr. Aaron did, that if I were to save my hard work right now, it might not even reopen. Because Maya is a very touchy program. It's all math-based. There's all computer language and geometry stored right now in history, indicating these are all mathematical functions that have x, y, and z numbers that make up the shape in 3D. Maya is based off of math, articulation and programming. Okay, so you might say to me, but I was able to work in it last time I was using it. Well, yeah, of course. But once you saved it and tried to open it, the file became huge. Don't go super green. You don't need to. Okay? So the benefit of being able to create new shapes is that I might increase the poly count on this shape to 50 because I might be using this as a really large shape that's squashed, right? And I need it to hold its circumference. Versus, this is the key shape that I created here. If I enlarge that shape really large, see, I start to get jagged edges on it, right? That's where I would modify the input selection to fit its size relationship. If I'm using this shape at a much smaller size now, like this, I don't need it to be 50 vertices or 50 edges, right? If I'm using this as a leg, oops, this object can be 40. This object is 352. Does that make sense? I can use, this is just a skinny round leg. It's smaller. The smaller it is, the less amount of edges and vertices it needs to hold the object together. The larger you go, the more you're going to need. You're going to have to modify it. That's why the input selection is there. What you don't want to do, this is where I get students to start duplicating where they're working and they go, hey, I already got a cylinder shape here. I could take this cylinder shape, duplicate it, and now I could scale it down, and then I could squash it, stretch it, and turn that into a leg. Scale it down again. I'm scaling it from the middle, you noticed. Okay? And I could go over here and I could stretch it like that, and I can make a chair leg. That's actually not too bad. Maya can handle that. But it is a lot more green than it needs to be. I could just create a new shape and have it be the base shape, and it would only be 42 instead of 350. 40 vertices versus 350. All 4 chair legs, 4 times 4 would only be 160 vertices. So imagine now if I duplicated this guy. Oops. I accidentally hit something. Hold on. I hit the pencil mode. Now I need to get out of it. See if I can. Maya does this sometimes. Look. Come on. This is what the keys are sensitive. I put it into another mode right now, and it might not even let me out because for some reason, there it goes. I got out of it. That will happen to you. You actually only hit another key and you put it. These are hotkeys in Maya. There's tons of hotkeys already listed. But what I was going to tell you, sorry about that, is that watch what happens when I duplicate this chair leg 4 times. And I select all of them. 1,400 vertices. Why go 1,400 vertices when I could do it in 300 vertices, 220 vertices, right? You need to think about what you're creating. Okay? All right, since it's almost that time for lunch, I think what I'll do is I'll pause here, let you guys go grab a bite, I'll render the file, and then we'll come back, and then we'll talk a little bit more. But from this point forward, this is it. This is the basics. And I'll go through it again. You guys can take this home with you, okay? Because I have hierarchy selection for selecting objects. We create primitives. We modify the primitives. We modify primitives by changing vertices, okay? And there's another way that we modify primitives. You know, we have a couple minutes. I'll show you the other way that we modify primitives, okay? This is a lot of fun. So let me show you really quick. Let me delete all my primitives I have in here. Let me create core shape again. So let's say I'm working, and I've been working now. I haven't showed you guys this. I've been working now for 20 minutes, and I've created my first chair in Maya, right? Save. We need to save. Maya crashes all the time. File. Save scene as. Not save. He'll just put it somewhere else in another file. Some directory you won't find. Desktop. And come in here and you can label your file, and I could call it chair 01. Okay? In this class, you want to save in steps. So what I like to do is open a folder. Actually, I'm going to show you the correct way. I like to come over here and I like to open a folder. And I don't have a folder now, but you want to create a folder that would be called like chair model. And then inside there, you want to save chair 01. And then work for another 20 minutes and then save it as maybe chair 1 again. And then every hour, save chair 2. Why? What's the thinking behind that? Let's say you keep working and you get to chair 5. You come back another class, you open chair 5 and it doesn't open. So if you go back and open chair 4, you've only lost an hour worth of work. Okay? I always keep a minimum of 3 to 4 versions of a file. So if I get up around chair 10, I go back and then I delete chair 1 through 5, let's say, because then I have chair 6, 7, 8, 9 as backup. Okay? That's really important. I said this in my class and it was ignored, and I had a great student who was really talented, who was modeling her restaurant, and she showed up crying the last day of class because her file went corrupt. She lost almost the whole entire restaurant. But she was such a good student, I gave her an extension of a week. She finished it. I know she was telling the truth. And she was able to finish it on time. What's the one key thing that she did not do? She did not save in multiple versions, even though I had warned her. You need to save in versions because files become corrupt all the time. Okay? All right. The other thing that you do is don't do this. Chair, rockin', don't leave spaces. I was always taught and believed, I've seen some spaces that have changed you can use to use underscores, because there are a lot of programs and code-based programs that don't like reading spaces. Okay, so use an underscore. Shift, underscore. Or I just do it all in one word, chair 01. Okay, chair 02. Then I get up and I get to chair 12, whatever, and then I even label it as chair final, or chair 1 final. Then I start working on the second chair. Do that. Keep things separate. The more precaution you take to back it up, the more of a safety net you're creating for yourself. Your first chair file today will probably be light enough that you can email it to yourself at home and work on it later. Okay? So I would save that to my desktop. Okay? So chair 1, make sure you click desktop, hit save as. And it tells you down here on the very bottom you have this display command box, okay, that demonstrates what's happening. Okay, there's an official name for it. I got to look it back up, but it's just the open display box. It says result C, the C drive, your desktop, users P Dimitriadis desktop chair 1 file is saved. It'll give you an indication, right? So now I can close out of my file and then go back, open up Maya. Now, I've noticed problems in Maya sometimes where if you come over and if I just double click chair 1. This is depending what kind of OS you're using, because Maya works on Macs. Sometimes when I do this on a Mac or on my home PC, it opens up Maya, but Maya doesn't open up it opens up the base window of Maya, but it doesn't open up the program file. So what I have to do sometimes is I actually have to go and I have to open up Maya first, and then I have to come back and then open up the chair file. So I would do that by clicking on the Maya icon on my desktop, and then going under File, Open, and then that would open up Chair. I've had that problem sometimes. In this version of 2013, I'm not having it. But if you go home, some of you might have an older version of Maya. Some of you might be on a Mac. These are cross-reference problems that happen between the different OS systems. So don't just click on it. Sometimes you have to go open it, because if you click on it, you'll be like, oh, my file's corrupt, and you throw it away. It's not corrupt. Go open up Maya first, then go to File, Open, find the file, and then open it that way. Okay? So now I've opened it, and then everything's back here. Okay? You're ready to work a little bit. So let me pause the demo here. I'll let you guys go for a break. Okay, 1 second.